the school taken away, that there could be money to save it, that we had some other ideas, and listen to us, give us a chance. And so she listened to all that. But I can't help but think that that rose made a difference that day. And what prompted me to bring it, it was just this out of thin air, out of thin air. But it was listening to higher levels of conscious agency who have a higher viewpoint. At that level, they can see all the possible realities. They
Sure.
can, so there's some guidance system through intuition that then I was able, because I'm open to it, and that's not just a one-off situation. My sister has often said, how come you've got this strategy in life? It's not strategy. It's shutting down that analytical mind, leading the way with the intuitive, and then being open to that. It's an openness to trust, this new information that may not come through traditional ways, but it has great influence.
This is Dale Cross, and welcome to another edition of Soul Inspire. This is the audio video podcast that features spiritually uplifting stories from awakening souls to help inspire you on your own soul journey. On this episode, my guest is Cynthia Sue Larson. She is the best-selling author of several books, including Quantum Jumps, Reality Shifts, and High Energy Money. Cynthia has a degree in physics from UC Berkeley, an MBA degree, a Doctor of Divinity, and a second-degree black belt in Kuk Wan. Cynthia is founder of Reality Shifters, and first president of the International Mandela Effect Conference, managing director of Foundations of Mind, and creator and host of Living the Quantum Dream podcast. She has been featured in numerous shows, including Gaia, the History Channel, Coast to Coast AM, One World with Deepak Chopra, and BBC. Cynthia reminds us to ask in every situation, how good can it get? Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dale. Such a pleasure to be talking with you today.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. So your specialty is in the field of something called quantum jumping, and we're going to get into that pretty quick. But before we do, since this is about spiritually uplifting stories, can we get a little bit into your spiritual background?
Yes, I grew up in a family that wasn't that religious, at least not my parents. My dad was basically an atheist and my mom was an agnostic. So over the years, my dad's become more of an agnostic, but so that doesn't sound very spiritual.
Right.
But however, I've got sort of memories from before I was born, between lives, if you want to call it that, of feeling not so much in words, but beyond words, the sense of just love and peace and just hanging out in heaven is what it felt like, with angels, with God, with this sort of a blissed out sense of um, just luxury. It's just like prosperity, luxury, well-being. And so it was, I think that is at the root of my spirituality is this, there's a term for this called born aware, which Diane Brandon has written a book about it. It's quite interesting. And you might want to have her as a guest on your show, actually, because she included my chapter in her book. My chapter was Whoops, Wrong Planet, because that was my first impression.
Oh, nice.
Nothing was terribly wrong with my family. They're very good people. But it just seemed to me that there was a big difference between the way people were planning and talking and thinking, and then what they were feeling in their hearts, and then what they were actually needing that they were not necessarily listening to. And it created dissonance everywhere in their own personal lives and relationships, everything. So that's the foundation, is just that awareness of feeling like this could be so much better. I really felt like I needed to leave, actually. I had what you might call a near-death experience at a young age, not because I almost died, but because I was feeling like I really wanted to go back between lives. I really, really, really did. And I realized, hey, it's this thing that my parents are warning me about, look out for fast cars. This actually could take me back there if I'd have to hit just right, not get mangled, but if you do it right, then you can die. And like, oh, that'd be great. But as soon as I had that thought, then I had an angelic intervention. So that was the beginning of what you might say my lifelong guidance with higher levels of conscious agency, or these interdimensional beings that I know so well between lives, and that I think each and every one of us is actually that. But I don't want to leave out that my mother's mother was the most spiritual person I've ever known. And really, I would just talk to her for hours about reading signs and synchronicities, interpreting dreams. And she taught me so much about that. She was Lutheran, and we'd talk about God and angels. And I think she really had that direct sense of experiencing the divine. And so she was a real companion on my early spiritual journey. And then I kind of left that sort of by the wayside for a number of decades and came back in again when I had a Kundalini awakening in 1994, because that just shook all of the tenets of what I thought reality was, completely obliterated um, any tendencies that I might have had to just go along with the mainstream narrative of science and materialistic science and so forth. So it really shook things loose in a good way. It was shocking,
Mhm.
but it was a good thing ultimately.
Did you, when you went through this Kundalini awakening, did you experience what a lot of people call the dark night of the soul?
Oh gosh, yes, yeah, oh, beyond words. So I wouldn't really wish this experience to be rushed onto anyone. I think it's something. It comes when it's time. It comes when it's an unfolding and an enfolding of the person's own personal journey. And there is support, but for me, it felt like there was that dark night of the soul. I felt very alone. It felt it was just mind blowing in every sense of that word, which is not necessarily pleasant, not at all pleasant, and challenging and difficult. But to come out the other side of it is to realize that our true nature is not what we think it is. And I knew that already, but it just shook me back because at that point I'd studied in universities. I'd attended UC Berkeley, gotten a physics degree
Mhm.
after first having attended a junior college. And so I'd done, and then I'd continued on and gotten my MBA degree. So I'd been to several universities, and each time we go through that kind of imprinting and patterning, then I think we lose a little bit of this inner intrinsic knowingness. That's part of our birthright. It's our intuition. You might think of it as kind of right brain thinking.
Mhm.
And in order to get there, it's kind of necessary to shut down the whole left brain side. Grant Cameron has written books about that, and he's quite good. Contact modalities is one where he goes into all the different ways humans have to shut down that left brain so you can open up your right. And I think that's well worth understanding for anybody on a spiritual journey.
That's fascinating. So so what you're referring to is more the yin as opposed to the yang, right? So the yin side is the open, receptive female. The yang is the more proactive male. So would you say that the yang is what you're kind of shutting down, what you're referring to, so that the yin can be more
Yeah,
open and receptive to spirit? Am I
right.
hearing that right?
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
summation of it. Exactly. And
Yeah.
then the reason for it is so intuition can be leading the way at certain times. It's not like it
Mhm.
has to be that way all the time. And then the rational, analytical, measuring mind that knows exactly what everything means, that would be the faithful servant. So your little problem solving, puzzle solving part of you.
Mhm.
I keep mine busy when I do intuitive readings for people because I work individually one-on-one with clients. And I do a blind reading before I start. And so if I don't know them, yay. But the more I know, then I definitely want to forget anything I think I know and shut
Mhm.
down that rational analytical side so I can genuinely receive authentic information that's exactly what's necessary at that time.
Mhm. So the Kundalini awakening experience, so I've often heard that sometimes it can come on suddenly for people and it's triggered by certain events in life. Would you say that you had an event that triggered it, or what was it that you
Yeah,
think was the catalyst for that?
yeah, it's interesting that you ask that because the year was 1994, and I remember
Oh.
springtime, like right about now, I had this weird feeling like I'd overslept, like I need to wake up. It was a spiritual awakening. It just felt so weird. I felt so sluggish and heavy and weird, and I was
Mhm.
commenting on it to a cousin of mine. She's very spiritual, very religious actually, and
Oh.
Catholic. Yeah, so but I thought she could understand. So I described it. I
Mhm.
remember very clearly talking to her about it. And then about 6 months later, my husband my first husband at the time, he'd gone to a conference. When he came back, he was just wow. He said, I was looking up, I said, what happened? He said, I'm looking at the ceiling and I could suddenly start seeing meaning in the ceiling. Like the patterns on the ceiling
Hmm.
had deep meaning. And
Wow.
when he said that, it felt like I could that whole wake up thing, I could feel it shifting. It's like that's what I've been waiting for. And it's like, so when he had that awakening, then I'm like, okay, finally I can. But I didn't know, consciously, I did not know what was going on, but I could actually feel something shifting. And then
Hmm.
that's when the floodgates of the Kundalini energy started coming through. I did get guidance through intuitive guides. I do have the ability to talk with my angelic guides, but I hadn't really been doing too much of that until I sort of reopened it by necessity. It's like
Yeah.
everything's falling apart. What's going on?
Yeah.
It wasn't everything falling apart. It just felt like that. It felt like all of the walls and structures of my mind were opening up and I could see jungle and
Mm.
green, lush, amazing scenery. It looked like heaven on earth just outside the walls.
Wow.
Um, but it was nonetheless shocking when you've got the structure that you think you are, and that's dissolving, and it's like
Mhm.
it's vanishing. So,
Would you call that like an ego death
yes,
happening?
absolutely. Yes.
So some people, when they take psychedelics, they go through that, right?
I think so.
It's a
Yeah.
very, almost like a violent prying away of, is Kundalini more of a sort of a violent pulling apart of identity in at least in your experience?
Well,
Is
it
it
may,
like that?
I don't know. Violent is such a loaded word, so maybe
Ah, okay.
it wasn't gentle though, and it was there's no way I could avoid it. And when I tried to pretend it wasn't there, then it would become more insistent and
Oh.
in shocking ways. Like I would be like, look, I don't want to deal with this right now. And then something that I thought I was imagining, like there's a dragon in my room, then it just gently picks up my arm and lifts it, and I'm like, oh man, or I'll see things moving around or sticks and stones hitting the windows on a still day when there's no wind
Mhm.
and I'm like, okay, 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 uncle.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So in other words, I was experiencing serious heavy duty psychokinetic effects.
Mm.
And then I would realize, okay, okay, I won't deny this. I'll acknowledge it. I'll go along gently, but this is world shattering because all of my
Mhm.
precepts are that everything I was taught is falling apart. It's crumbling. And it ties in with what I've come to understand as levels of conscious agency as well, because that process of becoming an observer, step back, step back, step back, step back. It's kind of like I see chakras as analogous somewhat, the energy centers in the body. Like we have seven primary chakras in the body, which
Mhm.
correspond to seven primary dimensional levels of identity. And at each level, you can see yourself kind of going up this long, it looks like to me an infinite stairway up to that
Yeah.
one mind. But to retain any kind of what we might call egoic identity at any of these levels is interesting because
Yeah.
it's like the Zen koan. It's like it is, but it isn't. It's like there's the awareness that you are, but you're part of something much bigger. And this
Yeah.
conscious agency is a key aspect to all the books I write, everything I'm doing. This is really the key. Understanding levels of conscious agency,
Mm.
recognizing that we've got neurons in the brain, neurons in the heart, neurons in the gut. It's like lining up the combination lock for a safe. If you want to do quantum jumping or anything like that, if you don't have those lined up, it was the thing I noticed when I got to Earth. It's like they're not lined up. They're not. There's a dissonance going on. When you've got that dissonance, then what you think you're creating, well, your gut's not into it and your heart's not there, and so you'll get mixed or partial or maybe no effects noticeable at all. So it's an extremely important concept. It gets glossed over even in physics. I just don't see it talked about. It should be, but it's not
Mm.
part of we say an observer, we say an observational device. Well, wait a minute, hold up, stop
Mm.
everything. Let's take a look at what are we talking about? What is the I? It's
Mhm.
perhaps the biggest question we can ever ask.
One last question about the Kundalini. So I had recently studied, or I had heard at one point that in India, they're very, very shocked that in the West, there's a tendency to teach the forcing of Kundalini. And they're in India, they're like, that's nuts. They're like, it takes 7 years to prepare the body. And so maybe do you think that's why so many people have a negative? Because I hear about these people having
Yeah,
almost traumatic experiences. Some people have very good experiences with it too. I'm not saying that, but the ones that are ready for it, right?
right.
If the body isn't ready and that energy is pushing up, it's going to be busting through all those. And if there's all this unresolved trauma stored in the body, that's going to make a kind of very not a very fun experience. So these people that are going, so I'm always scratching my head when I see all these teachers teaching, this is how to awaken to Kundalini. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't even know if this person is ready for that. Can be dangerous sometimes.
This is why I work one-on-one with people because this entire area that I'm working with is very unique, very
Mhm.
specific, very individual. And I'm just shaking my head at the whole concept of bringing a whole group through anything like any of
Yeah,
this actually.
yeah.
I do actually do some events. I'll be doing one next month in Crestone, Colorado, but usually I'm not doing events that are
Mhm.
workshops or anything like that because if I do, it has to be very basic. It can't, and I would never recommend going into, high powered. We're going to awaken everyone's Kundalini. Like,
Yeah.
good heavens.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, because I mean, some people are not ready
No.
for that. And then also people should be evaluated if they have mental illness, or I mean, that could really throw a big monkey wrench into it, you know.
And the energetics can be quite challenging too. I did along my journey, like just doing the work I do with clients, it's, that was something my angelic guidance, my higher levels of higher consciousness were instructing me would be a good thing to be doing, my
Mhm.
choice. And I said, yes, yes, yes. And I kept putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. And then I've part of my chosen path forward is to ask for messages, signs, and synchronicities to come in threes. And if it comes in three, then I know it's for me and I'll take it seriously. And I got three phone calls to my unlisted phone number right around the time that I think my angels were, of course, they realized I'm procrastinating indefinitely. It took 5 years after my Kundalini to incorporate everything. But even then, it's like, nah, I don't want to hang out a shingle and do something weird like saying, doing spiritual or intuitive life coaching. But
Mhm.
that didn't matter because these levels of higher consciousness and agency were working in cahoots. And obviously, I got three phone calls from to my unlisted phone number from three women. And when I'd asked them, how did you get my number? They said, my angels gave it to me. And they all wanted to know, can I talk to their angels? And I'm thinking, what the heck? They can already talk to their own angels well enough to get a phone number. This whole thing is a joke, you know, but it's not a joke. It's just showing we're working together. And then the whole thing happened again with Kundalini. It's happened twice with the phone call to the unlisted phone number thing. I'm
Wow.
laughing. The second one is even, that first one was pretty mind blowing, and that got me like, okay, okay, you got me. I'll start doing this. I'll keep my end of the promise, even though it feels weird for me to be doing that. And it feels like, I don't know any physicists who are doing something like that. It looks crazy.
Mhm.
But then the next thing that happened was I was occasionally getting prompted to meditate. It happened to be next to the landline telephone. I don't have a cell phone, but
Mhm.
so I'm meditating. Then the phone, after I'd meditated for maybe 30 or 60 minutes, then I'm feeling just calm, very peaceful, very tuned in. And then the phone would ring and I'd know, pick it up, which I never do. Usually I just let
Mhm.
it go to the machine, but I pick it up and I'm
Mhm.
talking to a
Mhm.
person who just starts talking and they don't explain anything, but I'm in such a zone that I know what's going on. They're having a Kundalini awakening, but it's not going well. And
Mhm.
and I'm so relaxed and tuned in, and I can just join in with what they're going through and feel like, oh, you've got some blockages here. It'll be okay. Just if you'd give me permission, I'll just help to open that. Because
Mhm.
basically, you just don't want any constriction points when you got that much energy flowing through.
Yeah.
It's like a pipe system, and if there's a choke point, you could have a pipe explosion. Well, I think that's
Mhm.
spontaneous human combustion. To me, it's like, well, this could be pretty bad. So
Mhm.
that happened three times and then the whole thing would be resolved in a few minutes, like 20,
Yeah.
30 minutes. I'd hang up. And that happened three times. And so this
Mhm.
is the way my higher levels of conscious agency inform me. This is real and it's important. Kundalini is real. So when you're talking about, is that something that should just be randomly, taught
Yeah.
in a group setting? No, And it shouldn't be routinely treated like it's any other thing. No, it's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
sacred process.
Yes, yes, indeed. Indeed. So you have, so you've been, so, oh, I want to talk about conscious levels of agency because that sounds like a really nice touch point. Are you familiar with Robert Sapolsky?
But the name sounds familiar. Maybe you
So
could.
he's the one that champions the idea. He wrote a book called Determined. So he basically says
Mhm.
it's turtles all the way down. There is no free will.
Ah,
I'd like to get your feedback on that. Now, it's interesting because you can look at it from different perspectives. He is looking at it purely from the perspective that it's a set of biologics. For example, every choice or action we make, he's not saying we don't have choice. He's just saying that there's a whole set of factors that preceded that choice. He gives the example of a judge. They did a study on a judge. So the judge that was what you call hangry,
mhm.
didn't have a good meal, is more likely to pronounce conviction on someone. But if he had a very, very good meal, he's more likely to let the person go. And so this is one of the arguments he uses to prove that there is no free will, that there is like a set of programming, for example, programming from religion, education, where basically our behaviors are being run unconsciously on these programs. Now, what I think I hear you saying is that once we awaken,
Yes.
then it's a kind of the choices become more. He does say, though, that when you have different inputs, which would align with what you're saying, when you have different inputs, then you can make different choices.
Yes.
So he's not saying that everything is just completely random and yeah, he's not saying that. He's saying that once, but then he also will say that those new inputs, there was no free will around those. They either happened or not. Like, for example, the person that met you, for example, and learned how to quantum jump. There was a whole set of circumstances that preceded that caused them to run into you. That's what he basically means by there's no free will. So where do you sit on this spectrum?
Well, I say it can look like that if you're not factoring in levels of conscious agency. It's a multidimensional viewpoint of oneself, realizing
Okay.
again, who am I? If I was just a little 3D automaton moving through time, linear time, then it might hit what he's saying could kind of fit that worldview. But if I'm instead much more higher dimensional, which I know I am because I can see around corners and know things that there's no way I should know them. And it's not just
Mhm.
me, we all have access to intuition. We have the
Mhm.
ability to be guided by something beyond this limited view of the world. And I've had things that, let me give you a story to match what he's describing, and I'll show you. It's no accident. Why would I have a story that exactly matches that right there? That tells me like no accident here. So when I was helping to do some local work in my community, the school district, I just had a newborn baby, and I was thinking I'll volunteer. I'll just kind of get to know the ropes before my child turns 5 and starts kindergarten. But what I found out was that the school district here was planning to shut down the school completely. In fact, it had done that, and it was planning to sell off the property. And so, without knowing what I was getting into, I somehow got into this whole project. Then I ended up in charge of it, and being the school site leader for a site that did not exist officially according to the district. Anyway,
Mhm.
um, there's a happy ending to the story, but
Okay.
part of the process, there was a lot that went in for a few years there. But part of the journey included that I went to a school board meeting, and as I was on my way to go, it was yet another vote. Like, will they listen to now we had a community, not just me, but hundreds of people coming up to the microphones and saying what they needed, and I'd helped to do a survey, research study, sort of a focus group and marketing study to show why it was needed and the benefits and so forth. But as part of all this, right before going to one meeting, I looked to my right and I saw that my rose bush had a single rose. And I got this intuitive feeling, bring it, give it to a certain specific member of the school board who was kind of on the fence. And I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. It made no sense. Why would I do this? But then I know it's right. Like, okay, let's do it. So I picked the rose, brought it. And then when I arrived at the meeting, she wasn't out of the closed session yet. So I put the rose next to her microphone where she would be sitting, and I took a seat in the audience. And then a few minutes later, the board members came out with the superintendent, and she came up to her seat and she saw the rose. And I'd left a little note, just, a loving note, like just vote your conscience, not telling her what to do. But there's the rose, and there's the note. And then she holds it up in the air and she's just looking at it very lovingly. And the color exactly matched what she was wearing. Not just, not, it was exact. And so if you say who, okay, now, and what she did is she did decide to vote in favor of the parents, the families who didn't want the school taken away, that there could be money to save it, that we had some other ideas and listen to us, give us a chance. And so she listened to all that. But I can't help but think that that rose made a difference that day. And what prompted me to bring it, it was just this out of thin air, out of thin air. But it was listening to higher levels of conscious agency who have a higher viewpoint. At that level, they can see all the possible realities. They
Sure.
can, so there's some guidance system through intuition that then I was able, because I'm open to it, and that's not just a one-off situation. My sister has often said, how come you've got this strategy in life? It's not strategy. It's shutting down that analytical mind, leading the way with the intuitive, and then being open to that. It's an openness to trust, this new information that may not come through traditional ways, but it has great influence. So
Beautiful.
yeah, that's what I'd say to that author. And so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
levels of conscious agency. We have
Yeah.
So it's a cooperation, a communication, a partnership. It is the yin and
Mhm.
the yang that you were talking about.
Mm.
Sometimes we take action, sometimes we listen. And, can we listen? Can we hear when that still small voice within? Are we meditating each day to find out how am I feeling? What do I need today? When we do that, then we bring the focus back to our own ability to choose and have that free will, and simultaneously to get the benefit of how good can it get, and working with these higher levels of conscious agency that are not going to get caught up in the drama of
Mm.
grief and sorrow and
Mhm.
anxiety and fear and anger and retribution. We can just leave that drama behind. It's definitely possible.
It sounds very similar to, are you familiar with Dr. David Hawkins' levels of consciousness, the map of consciousness? It sounds very similar because, in that, when you look at that, I guess it's kind of like a pyramid. At the bottom, you have shame and people that are hanging out in the shame and that paradigm. They're in a kind of survival mode. And so they don't seem to have vibrational access to the higher levels. But then as you ascend these different levels, when you get, I think it's to 500, it's unconditional love. And there, David Hawkins says that's where you're safe. All these so-called physical threats, you're no longer a vibrational match. So maybe the world is going crazy all around you, and maybe there's consequences for different people, but it has to do with the the paradigm, the belief
Yes,
systems, and the levels that they're at. That's what they're going to attract. And when
yes,
you're hanging out in unconditional love, and then I think the next one's joy, which is 600s. It goes all the way up to 1,000, which he says is very rare. That's like Christ and Buddha. And
yeah,
he said the body can't hold that energy like to go that high. But even if you're at unconditional love, I mean, he says that a lot of people in the United States are in 400, which is the intellectual. So
yeah,
they have this intellectual understanding of spirituality, like I'm one and blah, 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 but it's not in the heart yet, right?
right, right,
And
right.
then when you get into the the 500, that's where it starts, I believe, being in the heart. And that's would you say that that is kind of like a safety valve because so many people are so freaked out about what's going on in the world? But I think the solution is not going out and protesting and fighting and pushing against the things you see. I mean, I love A Course in Miracles, right? Where they say it correct the error of perception of how you view the world, and then you become what you want to see in the world, and that's what you're projecting out through your hologram. So staying in unconditional love, that's the world that you're going to be living in, no matter what is happening in the collective. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that loves what starts happening as you go up those higher levels that you mentioned with Hawkins is, it go from tunnel vision. It start the possible realities start opening up. So you get more and more and more choices. That's very interesting that we talked about free will earlier.
Yeah, yeah. Now we jump
But
to this.
but as you go up, it's going to start open, 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 and it just gets amazing. And then you realize
Yeah.
that Shambhala is here, heaven on earth is here, and this is not the wrong planet like I thought it was, even though I'm looking around like, what the heck? But
Mhm.
a lot of people are focused on those lower levels, and they don't know
Mm,
there's another way. They haven't
yeah.
heard of the Karpman drama triangle either, which is another beautiful way to look at this cycle, this unhappy merry-go-round where it's a victim triangle. So people, it's like their childhoods typically are traumatic, and people can say, well, I'm the way I am because I had a really hard blah blah blah, childhood, life, whatever, and they'll give examples of it. And sure, that's true. But the trouble is if you stay kind of on that lower vibrational level of feeling that you're a victim, or maybe even if you graduate up to the next role, which is rescuer, it's not that much better. And this is it's a merry-go-round. It's almost inevitable. Rescuers can say, "Well, I'm just looking out for these other people. They should know better. I'm worried about them. I'm afraid for the world. Fear,
Mm,
worry, all that stuff."
mm,
But it perpetuates this cycle. And then the next step along the way would be the persecutor, and that's the one that knows what's right, saying like, look, we're just going to do it my way or the highway, and lays
mm,
down the rules. And so you
mm,
can see this in social groups, very often families as well. And there's definitely a way to get beyond it. Lynn Forrest wrote a book, Beyond the Victim Triangle, and it's very excellent for those of us who are on the spiritual path. So it's a way of
mm,
looking at that drama triangle and rising above it. So I'd recommend if people are interested in that, check out Lynn Forrest's work.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Now, what do you think about this idea? So Abraham Hicks has this idea. I don't know if you've studied Abraham Hicks very much. Are you familiar with their
I'm
work?
familiar with it, but yeah.
Oh, I bet you didn't get too much. Okay, so in their whole thing, it's mostly about manifesting and the law of attraction. And Esther Hicks is this lady that channels Abraham, this sort of collective. And one of the big things that they say is that it's not the action that you take that causes the consequences. Like, let's say you take like a what's perceived to be a negative action. It's the meaning that you give that action. So it's not this about the morality, because religion is teaching,
I know.
if you do this, but maybe it's more about the intent of the heart, but that would explain narcissists, right? Because they seem to have a pretty good life. They're into fitness payoff, right? I don't know if you know Donald Hoffman.
Yes.
Okay, so Donald Hoffman talks about fitness payoffs. And I think that, like the bully in the playground,
Oh yeah.
evolutionarily with the Charles Darwinian idea, he's asserting control, and that keeps him safe. Is a fitness payoff. And the more he's a bully, and then you can take it into business, the bankers or I don't know, not the bankers, but the people that run businesses that say step all over other people to get ahead. That would be about fitness payoff, right?
Right.
But if I go back to what Abraham Hicks is talking about, it seems like everything's actually neutral and in a way purposeless from the absolute, but then we have the agency to give it meaning and imbue it with purpose. So if we give this particular action the meaning of like a positive meaning, even though others would perceive it as negative, the consequences are going to be different. It's the meaning. Would you agree with that idea? So it kind of throws karma on its head. It
Yeah.
makes karma more into a balancing thing,
Well,
not so much
again, I'm
about.
going to be bringing in this levels of conscious agency
Sure, sure.
business.
Hmm,
I know
hmm.
it's not a
Please.
trick. It's remember you
No,
can
no.
step back, step back. You can observe the observer, and there's a precedent for this in physics as well. If you wonder what is she talking about, then people can look up, Wigner's friend. It's named after Eugene Wigner, the physicist, and there are some modern day physicists who come up with the idea that we have reality bubbles. There is such a thing as subjective reality. We each have our little bubble of it, and there's evidence to start proving that too recently. But anyway, the Eugene Wigner effect, you can bring in the observer of the observer in a situation such as, for example, Erwin Schrödinger's cat in the box. And so you've got the observer who's watching the box with the cat in it. And is the cat alive? Is it dead? And the triggering mechanism inside the box is a quantum mechanism. It's based on the radioactive decay of an isotope, which nobody knows. You can't create some sort of algorithm and determine or figure it out or even use a AI system to predict it. Nope, can't do that because it's a quantum system. It's going to do what it does randomly. And so when it randomly decides the poison vial is broken open, the gas is released, that means the cat is dead. And if it doesn't happen, then at the time of observation, when you open the box, the cat's alive. So the cat being alive or dead is thus entangled with this whole quantum weirdness of, the fact that the quantum particle itself, the quantum system, the quantum triggering device is in a state of superposition. So originally, what Erwin Schrödinger said is that cat is alive and dead, which is a paradox. It's like it's weird. It's like some blurry wave function where it's both, and that doesn't that sort of blew people's mind. But then when you open the box, it's going to be one or the other. But inside, when before you open it, that's the superposition. And so Schrodinger opens the box. The cat is either alive or dead. Now, what happens if you add someone observing the observer? This is the levels of conscious agency. It does matter if you've got someone else observing. Experimentally, back in 2019, which is 5 years ago now, there was a publication of a physics experiment showing that two observational devices at the same place and same time, using this Wigner's friend meant, idea of observing the observer, they did get two different observations at the same place at the same time. So this goes full circle to what you're talking about. And this totally makes a difference. The levels of conscious agency totally matter. And we're starting to see it showing up in physics experiments. And some physicists like Eric Cavalcanti of Australia right now, I think he's really looking into it. But until we do that, the physics we have is kind of, I'd agree with Donald Hoffman, it's out of date. Space-time is passé. That he says that, and I think I'd agree with him there. Um, but I think I may have lost your original question.
Oh,
But yeah, you were talking about the Higgs idea, right?
yeah, I have a hard time being in no mind as much as I am. I have a hard time holding. Once the thought's gone, it's gone. So I'm probably on the same page.
Okay,
What
okay,
was I talking about? Yeah, something about
yeah,
fitness payoff.
that was it. Yes,
Oh yeah, I was talking about how, so from the Abraham Hicks teachings,
yes,
it's not so because people typically talk about karma, they say if I do this action and it's negative in some way to people, if they judge it, it's a negative, then it'll have these knock-on negative effects. But the thing is, it has to do with, if do I feel guilty when I do that? If, for example, if I make it like reality transurfing, I don't know if you're familiar with that, by
yes, yes,
Vadim Zeland, he talks
yeah,
about everything is essentially neutral and we give things meaning. And he argues for the idea that we shouldn't put importance on anything and just be more neutral. And then
yeah,
that keeps the balance. Otherwise, you trigger this thing called balancing forces, which come in and, so it's not so much, he argues, it's not so much about this idea of doing right and wrong, because at the absolute right and wrong are one, the yin and the yang. That's like a human judgment that this is right, this is wrong. It's not so much about that. It's about, what do I feel is wrong? Subjectively, what do I feel is right? So for me, the consequence might be very different if I do this action compared to, because I am a very empath. I have a lot of empathy type of, I don't know, it's my character, whatever. A lot of empathy. So I'm very easy to go, oh my God, should I, when I'm
mhm,
caught up in the mind, should I do this or should I, that's kind of falling away now, thank God. But compared to a narcissist who could just move full steam ahead and do it, I will get the kickback if I do this action because I've put the importance on it. I said, oh, this is a bad thing to do. I feel guilty. Whereas the narcissist that does the same action is going to be like, no big deal, whatever. I deserve what I deserve. And then boom, they get positive results from
yes,
that. So it kind of blows a lot of the ancient religions out that say, we're we're going to get punished, reaping what you sow. It's very heavily focused on the what's right and wrong.
Well,
Whereas,
but they would also, I think, just to hold that viewpoint for a minute, and not that it doesn't matter. I don't feel like I have a horse in the race here. I feel like to me the whole thing is an investigation. It's like, what does it really feel
Hmm,
like? And I think each of us
okay.
have a valid perspective here. But what's
Yeah.
fascinating with the spiritual side folks that are saying like, okay, yeah, I think that they're still solid because they would say when people die, they go through basically a full life review. I'd say that is my experience. I do remember that. And so
Mhm.
I love that movie, Defending Your Life with Meryl Streep. It's awesome. If you've never seen it, fun, fun,
No, I
fun.
haven't.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
you're in for a treat.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got a little, well, it's a love story in the afterlife after two people have died, and then they're going through their full life reviews. It's very funny and
Mm,
really interesting and uplifting, and it gives you hope. But I would say that's exactly what happens. I mean, the movie's a little far-fetched because it's a movie.
mm,
But the point that I'm trying to make here is if people do things, with guilt or without guilt, the sociopath versus the person who cares, both of
mm,
them, even the sociopath is going to go through a full life review. They will then get to have something they never had in this life, which is empathy. They'll be
mm,
experiencing everything on the receiving end of everything they did. And so if their net effect is it feels good to receive those smiles and the care and the love and the attention. If they're getting that, great. But a sociopath probably won't get a lot of that. And so
mm.
they're having what looks like an easy life right now, but I wouldn't envy anything that they have to go through because, and
Right.
I'm not saying it's hell necessarily, it's just not fun. And
Mhm.
watch Defending Your Life and get to see what it's like for two
Okay.
people.
Mm.
I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't
Okay.
seen it or it's so good.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, but it ties in totally with everything we're talking about.
Yeah,
And
because
that,
yep.
yeah. So there's so much going on with when you each person having all these levels of conscious agency. In other words, there's a part of each of us that's very wise
Mm,
and that's running. You might say, I feel like I'm a pawn. My life is not in my control. The moments that feels that way, you're always being guided by a higher level of yourself. It's very subtle, and it gets more and more subtle the higher up it goes. And
mm.
sometimes it can be pretty fierce, but often usually it's not obvious. It's not like I heard the voice of God. Usually not.
Right, right.
Usually it's very subtle. So if you're good at
Right.
just taking those meditative moments each day, tuning in, how am I feeling? What do I need? What can I best do today? Just that simple process for 10 or 20 minutes. Then you can go up through these levels and gain the benefit of all of that, which means even if you're a sociopath, you can suddenly do the right thing, not because you suddenly care, but it's like
Mhm.
maybe you're getting a little flash of what I'm talking about. The between lives thing is kind of it sucks. Or maybe you've seen Defending Your Life, like, man, not fun. Okay, cool. Then, of course, that movie's a little different. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's not exactly for sociopaths. Anyway,
Right.
so if you're a
Okay.
that's not the movie for sociopaths. Sorry about
Don't
that.
watch that one if you're sociopath. Yeah.
Yeah, if for the sociopaths who are listening, who want to investigate this, it's not good. It's like a dead end because, well, I don't want to give that away either. But anyway,
I have a sneaking suspicion that not very many sociopaths would be attracted to watching this podcast, so we're probably safe. I think
yeah,
a lot of people with empathy are being attracted to this stuff. But hey, that's just my idea. Who knows?
I
Maybe
think you're
there's, yeah.
exactly no, you're exactly right.
It's like I feel like, yeah, because so many spiritual, but people are on the spiritual path and they go out and they want to, share their work with the world. At first, their ego puts up a big fuss. Well, what are people going to think of you? It's a little nutty. You know what? I'm like, just go for it because you're only going to attract your tribe. You're
Yes,
only going to attract people that are interested anyway. So it
yeah,
doesn't really doesn't matter if people think you're nuts.
right.
I'm like, I didn't have that and I didn't have that insight early on. I was afraid, oh, if I put out a spiritual podcast, blah, blah, years ago, I was like that. But then I realized, hey, but it's interesting because talking about these different levels, right? I didn't have
Right.
the vibrational awareness or access to that insight when I was on the
Exactly.
lower
Yeah,
vibration. So,
yeah, yeah. Imagine this is the quantum jumping side of it. Imagine you already have all these levels of conscious agency. That's you, and you own it, even though right now you may feel like I don't think I go up that high. But
right.
it's there. It's totally there for you. All these
Yeah, yeah,
levels are it's part of who you really are.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
your, and then like, okay, I'm kind of pouting today because I'm dragging myself through something, but at some higher level, it's a good thing, and this is the right thing, and it's good for you to eat healthy
Absolutely.
food, do, exercise properly, have good friends, and do things that are positive, net positive for you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So that leads me into the quantum jumping. So you've got a couple of books on that topic. You've got reality shifts and you've got quantum jumps. And I'm
Yes.
currently going through quantum jumps. Everybody check that book out. It's on Audible. We can put links underneath this podcast. Please buy Cynthia's book. I think it's amazing. And what I like is you actually narrated it yourself, which is refreshing. I really appreciated that. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about the quantum jump. So, how did you? Sounds like you always had a taste of that, even back, you said in the 70s. I heard on some other interviews you talked about how you would hear a song on the radio, it was like number one, and then
Yeah.
it disappeared, and then it came back again, and your friends are like, no, that song, that's a brand new song, and you're like, what are you talking about? Am I getting the story right, or am I
No,
misreading the
that's
story?
exactly right. That is what happened.
Yeah, it's
And
cool.
in my childhood in the 60s, and also I was still a child in the 70s, I did experience quantum jumps. I didn't call them quantum jumps and reality shifts. The way I use these two terms is they're not exactly synonymous, but they're kind of the same thing. To me, the reality shifts are things that appear, disappear, transform, transport, or changes in time. So just noticing a discrepancy, like, wow, that's not what I remember. And suddenly something's different. And so this song change, I would call, it wasn't something I was hoping would happen. Like I hope that they announce that a song I'm sick of is now a brand new release. Like, why on earth would I torture myself?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I wouldn't do that. So I would call that more of the reality shift. Now we've got a term Mandela effect, where it's a whole group of people and they've got a mismatched memory. There's something that happened that's a fact that now seems different than what you know to be true. And actually, you're not the only one. But back in the 70s, there was no internet. There was no way I could easily find other people who were also totally sick of this song that was now supposedly new. If there was, I would have been checking, online to find out, hey, anybody else notice this? But it was the 70s, so
Sure.
none of that was possible. But
So
yeah.
how would you define quantum
Okay.
jumping?
Quantum jumping to me is where you've got something in mind, like that there's an adjacent alternate possible reality. You can almost feel and sense it. Or maybe you can't, but you can imagine it anyway. Then the goal that I would say is the goal is to start by imagining it. That's like the neurons in the brain. Eventually, you want to really start feeling like that is your genuine, true life. That's the adjacent possible reality where you have the skill set that you don't have. So I've had experiences where it's happened at different times in my life. In the 80s, I was working for Citibank and I was on a project. There was an acquisition underway, and my managers were in some closed door meeting, and I thought, well, let's just draft something up for our department. And I was sort of, I think I was daydreaming, like it would be nice if we had a lawyer to consult. We don't, so I'll just write it as if I was a lawyer. So I did that. And my manager at the time was a friend of mine, and she still is shocked by like what happened there. It's like suddenly, it's like this legal document comes out of nowhere. But it's just realizing you can think like you have legal training, like you are a lawyer, and so you can have that. Another time, it was also in now it's a different decade, the 90s. It was just something I was enjoying, a musical performance, and the drummer, for some reason, it was just a casual group of friends on stage, but the drummer just walked away. Something came up and he had to leave. But in my head, and I've never played drums before, but I could hear the drums and I could start feeling my hands wanted to play the drums. And I was trying to like repress it, and it just got worse and worse. And I'm shy. I don't like the stage, but I just felt like the song needs the drums, and I could feel like I know how to play them. Like you do not. Like, oh my God. But I just, instead of fighting it, like, okay. So I just jumped up on the stage and filled in for that song. And that was crazy. That's like no training, no practice, no experience, but I could feel it. It's like, I have to play the drums. And that is the essence of it. There's this
Mm.
adjacent reality, and I've had lots of times I've been sick, starting to get sick, and I just tell myself, no, you're starting to get better. It feels like you're on that threshold, but let's go the other way. You're coming out of it.
Mhm.
And I've done that when the car was out of gas. It's you can, or lots of times. I mean, so many examples of quantum jumping. So you can be in a situation where like I was in the pouring rain in a car in a parking lot, like the starter didn't start, and my husband was used to be a mechanic. He said, "Well, that's it." And you hear that sound. I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. How good can it get?" Like,
Yeah.
hang on here. I'm just gonna love this car so much, and we just need it to start once to get home. Then we'll tow it from there. But it's raining. I want to get home, and so I don't want to call someone right now. So I just turned the key, and it did start again. And he had said, "No," when you hear that sound. And I know what he meant, but I disregarded that. Like, never mind. So for me, a quantum jump is never mind the facts, what the doctor just told you, what the car just did. It doesn't matter what the facts are, the facts. It's like that's facts can change, is what reality shifts, the Mandela effect, and quantum jumping are telling us. So you start with this idea like, okay, we know that this is not the situation that we would ideally most wish to enjoy, but the adjacent reality is right here. Let's feel the love for it in the heart, know that we need it in the gut, and keep that vision. And it's like that combination lock again. Just bring that fullness of your being in. The more you meditate, the easier this gets. Doing that daily check in. How am I feeling? What do I need? What's going on? Because then when you need this, pow, and of course it helps if you've had a Kundalini experience, because then you got the extra energy.
You're right. So yes, I was listening yesterday. Actually, I was going for a walk in the woods, and normally I just take in nature, and I notice the birds chirping, but I don't label it birds. It's just all one. It's just beautiful. But yesterday I had to listen to your wonderful book. So as I was walking, I decided, no, today yeah, I'm still enjoying the birds and everything, of course, but I'm also going to have the added bonus of listening to your wonderful book, Quantum Jumps, on the Audible on my iPhone. And you talk in there about retrocausality. I think I just
Yes,
went through that. Can you talk a little bit about that? So what you're basically saying is everything is the reality that we're in is quite subjective, and it's very malleable, right? It's very
very.
malleable.
Oh,
So
very.
what is this about retrocausality? Is it going back in time or forward in the
Yeah,
future? Tell us about that.
okay, well, the basic idea is, it's not so much linear time where the moving finger writes and having writ moves on, or all your piety or wit, blah, 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 can change a single line of it. Cancel, cancel, throw that right out. I know Omar Khayyam is great. He's a great poet, but that particular thinking is not what we're doing. So
Okay.
just toss that one right out and then realize you can have hope for the past. In Irish, in the Gaelic language, they actually have a way of saying, like a phrase where they will hold hope for the past, where you know something is underway, like your friend is coming, and like here in California, we just had a landslide, part of the freeway washed out, and you can say, "I hope my friend made it through, before the freeway washed out." Now, and you'd be saying this when it's already happened. You know, your friend has already dealt with, you just saw it in the news, like, oh my gosh, you don't know what happened, but you're sending kind of a wish to the past. You're playing with time. And I love that it's right there in the Gaelic Irish language. But a lot of countries and languages don't have that built in. So then it helps to tell our rational, analytical left brain that this is possible, as we know from the double slit experiment and other things where you can have like a delayed choice, lots of delayed choice experiments in physics. And I'll just cut to the quick summarize it. Basically, you can set things up so that the observation is, having some sort of an effect, that you're having an effect by observing from a future point, and it looks like the future observation absolutely influences the past activity, what actually happened. And some physicists have done research in this area. Henry Stapp did an experiment using martial artists and meditators to influence um, previous, uh, radioactive decay that had been recorded on some papers. So they're sealed in an envelope. What's already been recorded already happened. And then people are being asked to pray and change that, or to meditate and change that. And it absolutely worked. There was a detectable, discernible influence. And so what that means for us, we know it works. We've seen it work, and it's in a language. So, obviously some people have known about this for thousands of years. And what we can do with it is recognize that it's, again, don't worry about the so-called facts. Just because
Hmm.
you've heard that this happened, sometimes facts change. We see that with the Mandela effect, that the heart is no longer on the left side of the chest, it's dead center in the middle right now. The
Yeah, that's
kidneys have
amazing.
moved up. I know so many things are changing.
You know, what happened to the, remember when we were children, they used to talk about the kidney shot. If someone would punch you, but it was down here, it wasn't in the middle. So, wow, that's
I know
dang.
that's huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, there's no way that a bunch of people could have. I mean, I can see the Jiffy peanut butter, the Jiffy marker. Okay, maybe a bunch of people got that mixed up, but this is amazing. Like,
That's what I think. And so I'm covering all these rational analytical things so people listening, because this one sounds a little outrageous unless you were raised in the Irish language and you know Gaelic, and then you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can do that. We'll just hold hope for the past. Yeah, we know how to do that. But for the rest of us, this is new. So it
yeah.
was not built into our language, and it's something that we can now learn is doable. And if you know that, then you can hold hope for healing. So if there was a broken bone, it doesn't need to have been broken. If there was a flat tire, it doesn't need to have been a flat tire. Pretty much anything has the capability of changing if you have an open mind, and if you really stay in that frequency that we talked about, that vibrational feeling frequency of at least unconditional love or higher. And then if
Mm.
you've got the genuine need for it, I think if you don't have the need, it may not happen. Because if you're just doing this,
Yeah.
like, I want to see that because I'm a sociopath and I want to change
Yeah,
something,
it's
like,
probably not going to work.
no, not gonna,
Right.
not gonna happen.
Right. What about for people that non-dual people that are not identified anymore with their body and they're no longer identified with their mind? Uh, it seems like they don't have the attachment anymore to even, I mean, not everybody, but some people are not concerned. They're just going with the flow all the time.
Yeah,
Um, I wonder how that would work with them. They have no attachment to anything either way, so they might be the most powerful in using quantum jumping if they tried it, because they are always in that neutral state with the no mind, no thoughts, or if thoughts do come up, they arise and they fall, but you don't grab them, you just let them, and you let, if anger comes up, you let it come up, you don't resist it, but you let it move through your body, right? That's kind of the
yeah,
practice that I do. I let everything, I don't suppress anything. It's all coming. I'm like, welcome everything.
yeah. It should be perfectly um, normal to experience these kinds of quantum jumps and reality shifts. They
Mhm.
won't be driven by a craving need because
No,
you're
no,
in a different state,
that's
unless
right.
maybe you've got a life or death situation that crops
Oh,
up
okay.
and then
Yeah,
you need it. And so, but you'll be approaching it from a very calm sense of need, but it's still a need, and it would be greeted
yeah.
as such, and you'd get a miracle as such. And I love like the Diamond Sutra, like Thich Nhat Hanh,
Hmm.
just I love that approach, just realizing that I am a living being. I'm no living being. I am a self. I'm no self. I'm a person. No person. I
Paradox.
yeah, to
The
embrace that.
real and the unreal. Yeah, yeah.
It's not. It would be something useful for people like yourself. It's not something well, like Kundalini. I don't recommend Diamond Sutra for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
No, but if you're already on that oneness path, it's perfect. It's so juicy,
Yeah,
delicious.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I have a lifespan. I have no lifespan. It's just really getting into the juicy, delicious
Yes.
nothingness itself. It's like,
Yeah,
wow.
you're no nothing and everything all at
Oh
once.
God, my
Are
favorite
you
place.
familiar with Tony Parsons? He talks
No.
about that nothing becoming everything or nothing
Well, that's what it
God.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
When
I love it. Yeah.
when you get into the nothingness, that is what it is. And then you know
Yes.
it. Yeah.
It's like empty fullness.
Yes.
So, see, when I'm in this space of what I call no mind, I mean, once again, it's just a concept to describe something that's beyond concepts, but it
Yeah.
actually feels like this is very strange, but it doesn't feel like an experience when I'm in no mind. It feels like some people call it a stateless state, but that's only because we're grasping for words to describe something that's formlessness. And how can you use
Mhm.
dualistic language to describe something that's non-dual, right? It's very tricky. And so, but that's how it feels. It feels like empty fullness. It feels like nothing becoming everything. And
Yes.
it feels like God pretending to be a human But then that freedom is in everything. It's not just in the so-called good things. Freedom is in the anger. Not that we want to keep being angry, but we just want to be the witness of it and let it dissolve, right?
Yeah.
Of its own accord. And it's very beautiful. Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the power of now. He talks about this just being the witness.
Yes.
But then it's what's really,
Mm.
really juicy is when the witness and the witness both dissolve.
Mhm.
That's pretty juicy stuff.
I personally like to meditate where I just slow thoughts down to a full stop. And then what happens is the eternity and the infinity just,
Mm,
it's like then you feel that just slowing the thoughts to a complete stop. Because then
yeah,
because then you're in all time, then you're
I
there.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's my favorite place to be. It's kind of like the void. That some people call it the void. I did
Yeah.
a meditation yesterday from a gentleman I've had on the show called Dr. Jeffrey Thompson. Have you
Oh,
heard of
nice.
him?
Heard the
Yeah,
name. Yeah.
yeah. He's in just like you. It's interesting. Your biographies are very. You should check them out because your biographies. You both live in California. You've both been on the History Channel. Were you on Ancient Aliens? I think he was on Ancient Aliens.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So,
Okay. Okay.
you never know.
Anyway, you're very similar. You're very similar when I read your biography and I stack it up on his. He's on the Netflix well, I guess it's on Amazon Prime right now,
Oh, wow.
called Heal, Heal. And what he does is he uses sound. He was
Yes.
back in the 60s, he was following, Gurdjieff.
Yes.
Gurdjieff, he was into that and the fourth way. And of course, he was doing and no, I'm not advocating for this, but he was doing the psychedelics and, taking the trips and stuff. And he wanted to duplicate that experience with sound. So I use this amazing, oh my God, it's so good. This meditation that he just released. It's on my Apple iTunes subscription. It's called IOTA, IOTA. He's the one that created the epsilon. You've heard of the epsilon? He's the one
Yes.
that created that name, I believe. So he has this technology called IOTA 1.0, and it slows your brain waves down so much that after I do it for an hour, I can't,
Uh,
there's this no thought here anymore. It's just more like a
mm,
sense, and
mm.
it's beautiful. And then
Yes.
that lasts for hours and hours and hours.
Well, if you do this, what you're doing often enough, people can, I find it easier and easier and faster to just go right to there. But
That's what I'm finding now. I used to use
yeah,
the what I call these
yeah,
are like training wheels
right,
to try
right.
to get me to know mine, but now I can kind of go
Yeah.
there at will.
And
I'm
that's
like
such
walking
a,
down the street. I'm like,
and that is something people might want to know is a good thing to do if it looks like there is an emergency situation. It might be
oh,
counterintuitive, but I would recommend
yeah,
it because you access everything in that state of mind.
you do.
And
So
it's
then
it's
all
protective as well against, we didn't even get into all that stuff, but it's very good for,
that makes sense because you're then very neutral.
yes,
And so the balancing forces, like they talk about in Vadim's book, Reality Transurfing, the balancing forces don't come in to try to rebalance you because you're not putting importance on
yes,
things. You're just very neutral. You're going with the flow and you're trusting that the universe is unfolding the way it's meant to unfold. Even though sometimes with the physical eyes, it's like, oh my God, this is just looking kind of.
yeah.
But no, 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 wait a second. That's the mind trying to come in and judge that and then creating importance, which then triggers the excess potential, which will then take you down a very nasty, sometimes timeline.
Very well said. Yes.
So yeah, I like just staying neutral is very, very good. And don't get us wrong, we're not advocating to go out and do anything
No.
dangerous or anything like that. We're just saying that when you are in a situation that seems precarious, if you can stay really, really calm,
Yes.
it's quite amazing how that situation can turn itself around. I've had so many experiences like that.
And if you just toss in that little question, how good can it get? Just make it a habit. So it's there too. Like as you go into the nothing, how good can it get? And then nothing.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I
For the
love it.
win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's so exactly. That's so beautiful. So you've been working with clients one-on-one mainly, from what I'm hearing. And are you allowed to share? I mean, because it's all anonymous anyway, can you share a couple of testimonials of some clients where you coached them maybe, and then they were able to do an interesting quantum jump, if that's possible?
Yeah, well, usually most of the people that come to me are already doing quantum jumps, but
Okay,
they're,
okay.
yeah, but they're, because it's sort of a normal thing. It's like that happens, but it's kind
Okay,
of,
yeah.
it is exciting when you see things that like something that you lost and then it just suddenly appears in a completely different place. That's so cool.
I
So
had
there's
that
that.
experience lately.
Yes, and then healing is fun when that happens, when you thought, when doctors have told you something and then it turns out much better. So yeah, I've had experiences with people who I've taught and worked with, and one of them, he did get a diagnosis from doctors saying like, this is not good, you've got prostate cancer.
Hmm.
But he decided to take quantum jumping literally. He decided to do, I think that's even in the book. You can actually jump, and that, I think that it's a fun thing to do. If he was taking the elevator up to see the doctor and he was feeling nervous, so he'd jump in the elevator, which is made him feel like a kid again. And he just felt like, I'm jumping, and when I land, I'll be in the new reality. So you're bringing energy into it. It activates the whole being, you know. So he felt like a kid again. He had that youthful, vibrant feeling of fun, and he was right, open-minded. And you know, he's already quite experienced in seeing reality shifts and quantum jumps, so he knows it can happen. It's just challenging when it's your own life and someone's telling you something scary. Then to be able
Yes.
to make a shift, then that just feels like whoa. But to have fun, to be laughing, it's fantastic. So he was doing that properly, and then he showed up for the appointment, and of course, you know, I wouldn't be telling the story if it wasn't a success, but the new result was like, we don't know what happened, but it's cleared. So that's the kind of thing people would love to hear. And I can't guarantee that that would happen every time, but I know for
Yeah.
each individual, it's really that process of working with wherever you are on your journey. And when something comes up that you need to go through it, then I'm somebody that they can go through it together with, and I can bring a level of focus and energy to it. So it's kind of like midwifing this quantum jumping process as people go through, you know, these interesting times.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll put in that quick little medical disclaimer. Keep going to your doctor.
Yes.
But this is a wonderful, like she said, it's no guarantee. It may or may not work, but hey, it's a nice compliment, right?
Yes,
Quantum
absolutely.
jumping is a nice compliment to what you're doing with your doctor, and
And there is,
that
and that's good. I love complementary and alternative medicine,
yeah,
functional medicine. Yes.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh, that's so cool. So in quantum jumping, let's move over to a little bit to this. So you're also, are you the director, or you're the founder of the International Mandela Conference? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Well, it started with this gentleman named Jerry Dark Wolf Hicks, and he invited me to come out to Idaho, because Sun Valley, Idaho was the first conference that we held before we officially became International Mandela Effect Conference. So that was 2019, November. And the two of us then very quickly were joined by Shane Robinson, who's got a channel on YouTube, Unbiased and on the Fence, and Christopher Anatra, who's got the Quantum Businessman channel. So
Mm,
the four of us have stuck together through thick and thin, you know, through COVID and lockdown and everything. And we're bringing our live conferences back. We had one in Connecticut last year. So the way it came together originally was just our shared passion for recognizing that there's something much more to this Mandela effect than what's called, if you go to Wikipedia or something, they're going to call it false memories. And we do
yes.
not, we say that's not really valuing the phenomenon properly. And so
Mm,
each of us
mhm,
brings our own passion and our own focus and experiences to a very positive reviewing of what this phenomenon's about. But we're also wide open to having speakers come and give presentations at the conference where they would like to
mm,
share their take on what is it about, what does it mean to them. And we're doing a conference in November 2024, Adventures in Consciousness. So it's
mm.
really diving, it's a deep dive into what is this about? What does it mean to you? And I'm noticing, like you are, that when the kidneys move up to the relative safety of the rib cage, that seems like a human improvement that just happened instantly around the entire planet to over 8 billion people. What's going on? You know,
Yeah.
how good can it get when we've got the Mandela effect now at this time? So that would be my take on let's take a look at this.
Yeah.
I share that same joy and passion with these other members of this nonprofit. We're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. So
Mm,
people that want to donate, if you get a tax write-off, then that can help. And we
sure.
do a monthly live stream. So usually the last Wednesday of each month, we get together on YouTube and share, some of the recent events that have been happening, recent Mandela effects, extinct
Mm.
animals that are coming back, things like that.
Is that a separate channel? Because I do subscribe to the Cynthia Sue Larson channel, but is there a separate channel or is that on the same
Yes,
channel?
it's its own, it is a separate channel, and
Okay,
it's
so I have to search for that. International Mandela.
International Mandela Effect Conference.
Okay, so everybody can do that. Check that out.
Yes.
Cynthia has two channels, and she's got her own channel, Cynthia Sue Larson, which I regularly watch, which I really love, which has really inspired me. And then you also have this International Mandela Conference channel, right?
Yes, that's right. And I
And
think
you said
people,
animal extinct. Sorry, you said
yes,
extinct animals. Can you talk about
absolutely.
that a little bit? Yeah, what's that about?
Yeah, well, this is something interesting. Nelson Mandela is the name of the Mandela effect. It's after him being noted dead and then alive again. Uh,
Hmm.
and in my book, Reality Shifts, I mentioned Larry Hagman, the actor, being dead and then alive again. I think that was the first time any book mentioned this phenomenon of the alive again phenomenon. And
Hmm.
so, but there's a
Hmm.
long history for this actually. But when we look at species, the same thing can happen. The coelacanth is this giant fish that was living in the oceans, and it was declared extinct. But now it's back and with rather large numbers. It's not even threatened. It just seems like suddenly a group of animals can come back that had been declared extinct. And it could be, 10 years after they've been extinct. We often cover animals or plants that are coming back 100 years or more after having been declared extinct. And this was prophecies. The Hopi had basically expected that there would be extinct animals, dead animals coming back to life, and plants. So that was part of how they would recognize the new world, that we're moving from the fourth into the fifth world. And
Hmm.
so if you look at extinctions or past ancient history on the planet, if you will, then it looks clearly like we're moving through another one of these transition phases. This time is going to be fun when more of humanity is aware of things like quantum jumping and the Mandela effect.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So, is there anything that you're working on these days that you would like to tell us about?
Well, I've mentioned the conference that's coming up, of course, in November, and people might want to go. It'll be in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. That'll be the 7th through the 10th of November. And that'll be exciting. There'll be great speakers and a wonderful opportunity to be with, soul family, people that are open to talking about all this stuff. And I'll be doing also a retreat workshop in Crestone, Colorado, which is a
Hmm.
very spiritual community, very special. And that'll be toward the end of May. And both of these events have links on my website, realityshifters.com. And
Great.
then working on a book. It'll come out this year. I don't have a date yet to release it, but it'll be about the Mandela effect and its society and the superpowers that we can all expect to enjoy, based on
Cool.
what we're seeing, with this phenomenon.
I love it. Well, how good can it get, right?
Yeah, right.
That's your
Exactly.
favorite saying. That's becoming my favorite saying too, thanks to you. So thank you for sharing that with the world. That's a gift. Just
Oh,
that one thing that you shared is a gift, I think, to the world. Even though the rest of your body of work is amazing,
yes.
but that is like the cornerstone. Would you agree?
I think so. I think it's great, and I welcome people sharing it with everyone. I've seen people make
Yeah.
signs of it, put it up on the walls, put it
Oh,
in.
cool.
They've made it into neon signs. Yeah, I see it all. Yeah, that's great.
Well, that is so awesome. So I really appreciate you being my guest on this show. And if you're open, would love to have you back someday for a part two. That would be so cool because I really enjoyed talking to you today,
I
Cynthia.
would Absolutely love to. My pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And please, everybody, by all means, check out. She has a YouTube channel. We'll put it below this. And she also has the website. She has oh yeah, you have Reality Shifters New, because I'm subscribed to that as well for quite a while. I'm subscribed to, is it Reality Shifters News Magazine? Is it?
It's Reality Shifters, and it's now coming out through Substack, so you can search for it
Oh,
there.
okay.
A lot of people are on Substack now, and it's
All
makes it
right.
easier. Yeah.
So it's called Reality. So when they search on
Real,
Substack, they should search for Reality Shifters.
or you can search. That's a good question. Maybe it's under my name, Cynthia Sue Larson.
Cynthia
But
Sue. Okay, check out
yeah.
either one, everybody, because you don't want to miss out on Cynthia's body of work. It's quite amazing. I really appreciate it, and it's
Oh,
made a difference in my life. It definitely has. And so thank you so much. I'm so grateful
thank
to
you.
you, Cynthia, for everything you're doing, and I'm grateful that that you said yes. I'm delighted that you said yes to being on the show. And yeah, so everybody check it out. Cynthia Sue Larson is the YouTube channel. The other YouTube channel is International Mandela Conference.
It's imec.world, and
Okay.
that takes you to our website, and you can subscribe to that newsletter and hear about our events, the monthly live streams, and the annual conferences.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, everybody. So thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you,
Have a
Dan.
wonderful day, and
You too.
thanks again, everybody. This has been another edition of Soul Inspire. See you next time. The Soul Inspire podcast is brought to you by DaleCross.net. Discover the freedom, bliss, and ecstasy within you. At DaleCross.net, I can help connect you with your soul's purpose, passion, and mission. Your soul signed up for something great. Discover what it is with the tools I offer. Book a free one-on-one consultation now at dalecross.net and live your greatness.